Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sideline Sisters. I am your host, Jenny Chaffetz, and as always, I am so thrilled you found your way here. Whether it's your first time listening or you are a longtime loyal subscriber, I'm psyched that you found your way here. That's all that matters to me, that you are here listening to the beautiful stories, the personal, relatable, vulnerable stories from the women I've had the privilege of interviewing. Now, you may recall from last week's episode with Nicole Grave-Lipson, I mentioned that it was a two-part series on women exposing the unspeakable topics. I am so grateful that Nicole shared stories that she included in her memoir, Mothers and Other Fictional Characters. And today, you will hear from my new friend, Caron Grossman, who has been through a lot of stuff. And as she pinpointed, unspeakable truths, things that women thank her for addressing. And I'm among them. Thank you, Caron, for coming on this show and sharing your history of addiction, your traumas, your recovery from a heart attack. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Caron. Residing in Syracuse, New York, she is a registered nurse, breathwork facilitator, and heart attack survivor, transforming life's challenges into stories of hope and healing. With warmth and insight, she shares wisdom with her TEDx talk, Permission to Grieve, shaped by the sudden loss of her mother when she was only 13. When she's not sharing her story and listening to others share theirs, Caron is enjoying music, reading, tossing a frisbee, or wandering the woods. She is fueled by family, friends, curiosity, and a passion for inspiring others to navigate the unexpected. Throughout her life, Caron experienced unexpected tragedy, and she responded. For many years, she responded in an unhealthy, self-sabotaging way, and then she pivoted, and she found a way to heal and feel emotions, big emotions, often scary emotions. So, hopping on the back of last week's conversation with Nicole, I hope you enjoy today's interview with Caron Grossman. But first, I want to invite you into the world of gentle coaching. In case you don't know what I do as a life and breathwork coach, I want to take a moment to explain. For much of my life, we're talking over 4 decades, I did not have coping skills. Or rather, I did have coping skills, they just were, like Caron's, self-sabotaging. So whether it was the death of my mother when I was 18, challenges in my household, verbal abuse, difficulties at work, as a mother myself, as a wife, in friendships, just in life, I typically turned to food. That was how I coped until I hit a wall. And that was during COVID, when I finally hit that point of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. Some call it rock bottom. But I reached that emotional cliff where I had to decide, am I just tumbling into the abyss, or is there another way? And I started working with a coach and experienced group programs and did work that I had never done before. Meditations, visualizations, journaling, being with my feelings, getting curious. And what I found was not only did I gain some understanding about who I was and why I was doing the things I was doing, but I also found that this was a path I wanted to travel. This was a career shift I wanted to make. And so I got certified as a coach and a breathwork facilitator, and then ultimately started a podcast, and I became my own IT, AV, marketing manager, social media expert, bookkeeper, and all the other things that go into small business ownership, so that I could be a coach, a guide, a space holder for other women like myself who finally decided to deal with their shit. And so at Gentle Coaching, I take a sometimes gentle, sometimes no bullshit kick in the pants approach to supporting women. I share the tools that have been so helpful for me, tools that I rely on daily, and I offer women the opportunity to explore other options, other approaches to life, because we are not stuck. It feels that way, I know, but our feet are not rooted in cement. We are not doomed to feel sad, angry, resentful, bored, self-loathing, disconnected, stupid, ugly, whatever it is that is keeping you really low vibe and resistant, we're not stuck there. We're not. I am living proof that we can get out of our own way, and it might take the support of a life coach. It might take consulting someone. And I want to be that someone for you. I want you to know you're not alone. You're not broken. There is hope. There is possibility. And you deserve what you desire. So if this is hitting you in a sensitive spot right now, look at the show notes and connect with me. All the ways are there, and I am here waiting to hear from you. Now let's get into the conversation with Caron Grossman. Caron Grossman, I am so thrilled to have you here on the show with me. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to see what comes up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've been long lost friends as we've gotten to know each other pre-show, and having watched your TED Talk and having not read your book, that would make us even more connected if I had read your book. But full transparency to the audience, happened in time. So
It's okay.
yeah, so I'm glad we could at least talk a little bit about it. And the audience has a little snippet of your life from the bio, but we're gonna really dig into it, which I'm super excited about.
Me too.
Now, when we were talking moments ago, you mentioned something that I want to start with. So we've talked about, we were sharing our mutual unfortunate experience, mothers dying while we were young. They were young, we were young. And the troubles, the challenges that ensued as a result of that. And you said, not a direct, from my perspective, I didn't handle it.
That's very true.
Okay. Now, first off, I want to say, is there a child that handles the death of a parent well? I don't know. I'd like to meet that person. But secondly, what does that mean to you? What is feeling the death of your mother? You were 13. She was
39.
39. What did that look and feel like for you?
Well, it absolutely 100% changed my world as I knew it. 100%. Everybody seemed to go on with their lives, and with my dad and my sister, they didn't talk about her. They just and then I, of course, wouldn't bring her up because it would make people cry.
Yep.
And I am a big feeler. I've always been like very empathic with my emotions as a young child, and everything was too much, and I couldn't label what I was feeling. We just called it grief. But there's anguish, despair, betrayal. There's so many other things that I was not equipped to handle, and nobody was able to help me with that. And so, yeah, I was 13, it was 77. It led to drugs, it led to alcohol, it led to, for me, I just didn't give a shit. Like, I didn't care about the consequences because what could be worse? I mean, like the worst
Exactly.
thing already happened. So what could be
Right.
worse?
Right.
And I also felt like if I went on normally, or whatever normal is, that was a betrayal to my mom. It was like saying, like, somebody's got to speak up for this. Somebody's got to say this is wrong.
Someone has to
And
respond to it and
yes,
suffer for it. Yeah.
yes. And her sisters, my aunts didn't live here. So I just like I made a lot of choices. I don't even know if there were choices because I know right from wrong. And so the drugs, the alcohol, I also did things that were illegal. You know, I got in trouble with the law. I got in trouble, when I was 17, I was institutionalized. Nobody knew what to do with me. And I didn't know what to do with me. And but I truly believe the base of who I am and what my mom gave me, like, brought me back to who I am today. You know, that I eventually, because that's not who I am. Like, I'm not that person. I am a rebel in many ways, but the rebellion was very, like, I didn't I'm hurting, you're going to hurt. You know, you are going to feel this pain. And so when I
Right.
say I didn't handle it well, is because so many people got, taken down by my storm. including
Mm,
myself.
yeah. And I really should have begun with an apology for bringing you into this memory, because or at least acknowledge it. So I'm going to do that now, and
That's
thank you
fine.
for sharing that, because it's um I heard someone say grief something like time doesn't heal the wound, it numbs it. I think that's how I heard.
Well, and I numbed it even more
Well,
with drugs, alcohol,
yeah,
food. Food was a
yeah,
biggie. Food was very
yeah.
accessible. So, and that that was something I turned to before my mom died. Like food
Hmm.
was, I already had an unhealthy relationship with food.
Yes,
And yeah,
yeah.
so I
And that's an interesting thing. I as well had un unnatural or destructive relationships with food for as long as I can remember. Prior to my mother died when I was 18, I was already closet eating and hiding things, um and then of course after she died the habits really solidified.
right,
But it's it's really interesting how, again, we were talking before recording that we can't deal with our shit until we're ready. You can't heal
right.
an addiction or troubling behavior until you're really ready to acknowledge and face it. And it's so, I didn't address or label, even like name my food addiction slash, binge eating disorder, whichever label I choose to give it, until 5 years ago. And, I was in my mid 40s. I
Yep.
deliberately chose to open a home based bakery so that I could literally fuel this habit, this behavior pattern. It was perfect. It was like, great. I need to have all of the candy and chocolate and baked
Hmm.
goods and things around me because it's work,
That's
all in the
right.
name of work and sacrifice. Um, but it's fascinating to me how many people suffer in this almost like taboo uh um this what's the word I'm looking for?
It's that's
Behavior,
what
but it's like we suffer with this problem that doesn't get the attention or respect, because as we were saying, well, food is food. I mean, everybody eats food, and you can't cut it out of your
yeah.
life. And just there's a lot of people out there, I have learned, that um, manage their pain with food, and
Absolutely.
do so um, in shame.
Oh, and that's a huge part of any addiction, though. I
Yeah,
mean, you, the shame, like, why can't I stop?
yeah.
It's just food. It's just alcohol. It's just whatever it is. I should be able to, like, I'm just going to have one. I should be able to stop. And I can't. And the shame of that, it's like, I promise I'm not going to do it, only to find yourself, face first in it again. And the
Hmm.
shame in that. And, for me with food, I mean, I became 275 pounds. And when we think we're like, I don't think we're saying, oh, I'm numbing the pain. I don't think that's it, whether we're seeking comfort or whatever. But addiction doesn't know which emotion it's squelching. It can squelch joy as quick as it can squelch, grief. It's not
Mm.
particular. It'll take you down any which way. And and that's something I know I didn't understand for a long time. And it took me a long time. I knew, this is so funny. I knew at an early age that the 12 steps were going to save my life. I had no addiction in my family. There was no alcoholics. There was no like nothing. As I got older, they would on Fridays they'd have Manischewitz,
Right.
that was it. And
Yeah,
but there
yeah.
was no drinking. There was no
Same, yeah.
yeah, it just wasn't. But there was an after school special about a teenage alcoholic. And so I always paid attention to that. And ultimately it was the 12 steps that kind of saved my life in many ways.
That's so interesting that you said the addiction doesn't know which emotion to address. I've never heard anyone say that, and I love that in the worst way.
Yeah.
And I'm curious with the addictions, the both the all of them, the food, the drugs, the drinking, the rebellious behavior, the disconnection from other people. I mean, we can classify all of those as
Hmm.
addictions. What do you have the backwards perspective now to recognize what joys you were squelching with your
Mm.
addictive behaviors?
Well, I think when we have somebody close to us that dies, I mean, I can only really speak for myself. I was afraid to laugh too hard. I was afraid to enjoy life. If I was afraid to, I didn't want to betray my mom. I didn't want to like say for 1 second that this was okay because it wasn't okay. Nothing about it was okay. And so I didn't care about joy. I didn't care about pain. I didn't care about anything. Like bring the
Mm,
pain. Maybe in some ways I probably thought I deserved it. And I truly believed I would die by, 39 anyways. My sister turned 40 before me. I gave her the book, The Little Engine That Could. And then when I turned 40, she gave me the book, The Little Engine That Could, because we made it. We
right.
made it. And
Yeah.
I didn't start getting like help with I mean, I did therapy and stuff before that here and there. And I learned a lot of stuff about myself. But even as a digger, I've always wanted to have a greater sense of who I am. Like I've always wanted to know who is Caron at the deepest, deepest core level. And ever since I was little, I always wanted to know more. I loved doing tests, little IQ test or EQ test or any of the tests.
Yeah.
I'm a Sagittarius. Oh, that
Right.
explains that. Um,
I know.
you know,
It's a human design, Enneagram.
yes,
It's
yes,
fascinating. It's
yes.
so great to look at these descriptors and say, like, oh,
Uh,
when I learned I was a manifesting generator, and it's
I'm
like,
a manifesting generator.
of course you are. So I'm not quitting on all of my little projects. I'm just multi-passionate.
Oh,
That's
isn't that
it.
something? It's great. But yeah, so I've always wanted to, but I was also really scared to look inside, because what if what if the bad things that I was doing was because I was a bad person? And I was so scared. And so you talked about shame, but there's shame, there's guilt, there's all these things, and it just keeps snowballing. And I still make really poor decisions. I still put my foot in my mouth, but I never, ever intentionally hurt anybody anymore, including myself.
Mm.
I'm very, very aware of that. Yeah, we really do always, I mentioned this, well, this was before, but we really do show up the best we can with what we have. And if I believe that for myself, I have to believe that for others. And if I believe that for others, I have to believe that for myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. At what point were you able to come to the new conclusion that you weren't inherently bad?
Um, I think in back of somewhere, I always knew that. I always hoped that, but I wasn't sure. I went probably, it didn't stop. I didn't like, oh, as soon as I like started eating healthy and like stopped drinking, I didn't say, oh, look at me. Like, there are so many steps. I had to really look at my behaviors. I had to make amends. I had to apologize for things. Oh, like I had to apologize. I had to apologize to my kids, you know? I had to apologize to my ex-husband. I had to apologize. I had to really look at how I hurt people, including myself, and I had to make an amends to myself.
Honestly, I feel like and I'm not trying to make light of addiction,
No.
but we're all about a little bit of humor here. And as you and I were discussing earlier, like
Mm-hmm.
we gotta
Have
gotta,
to.
gotta soften the edges a little bit. Honestly, I feel like of the 12, if anyone is hesitating to face their addiction and potentially join a 12-step program, I feel like the making amends part has got to be harder than giving up the friggin' booze.
It is, but you got to understand that the steps are designed. You don't
I
get to that until you're
I know,
ready.
I know,
You
I know. I feel
know,
like I would be stuck on, step 3 or whatever,
I
whichever.
was for years, years. The
And I'm like,
12-step waltz, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's like, yeah, yeah.
that's so good. I mean, really, to take ownership, ooh, that's scary.
But then you're free.
Yes,
Then you're
yes,
free. You
yeah.
know, Janis Joplin is one of my absolutely favorites, and freedom is just another word for nothing left
Yes,
to lose. And I used to try to understand that. I would
that's my
like,
favorite Janis song.
and what does that really mean? And then one day I realized I had nothing left to lose.
Yeah,
Like in a good way. It wasn't like I was in the depth of my addiction and it's like, oh, I have nothing left to lose. No, I
yeah,
was in recovery and I realized like I'm not hiding. There's no imposter syndrome. I'm not afraid to get caught. Like I was always looking over
right,
my
right,
shoulder,
right. It's
like,
like,
oh,
yeah,
my boss calls me in the office and it's like,
right,
oh,
what's
what
gonna
did I
happen?
do?
Yeah.
Now it's like, maybe
Hey,
I
what's
made a
up?
mistake, but I'm not aware of it,
Yeah. It's
So
like
yeah,
being the underdog of your life.
yeah,
Like
yes.
you just get to have like you get to walk out on the tennis court and be like, no one's really rooting for me. I'm the underdog. And so I can go crush it. Like
Yeah,
I got nothing to lose.
that's right. That's right. That's so true.
So, okay, so you lived quite a life by the time you were 40. I
Yeah, I
mean,
did.
in a again, this is in your story, but to have the death of grandma, mom, dog in a span of what? 6 months?
5 months.
5 months. Okay. Um, any one of those individually is enough to take out a 13-year-old. I mean, the dog
I know.
for a
That
13-year-old.
sucked. That
Right.
sucked.
That is tragedy for real. I mean, honestly, when the first dog my husband and I got passed away, I mean, he was older way. I'm trying to do the math now. I mean, he was a 40-year-old man that could barely get up, put pants on, and go to work.
Yeah.
Like it was like we had cut off both arms and a leg.
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's
Um,
huge.
so to be a child who lost her grandmother, lost her mother, and now the dog, I honestly don't know how you were able to, get up and find your way to the bathroom.
Not well.
Yeah, yeah.
Not well.
So I'm sending some compassion and love to
Thank
the
you.
13-year-old Caron who yeah, didn't ask for any of that and did nothing wrong to
No, no,
experience any
no,
of that.
no, you're 100% right.
Okay, so we're going to have a really dramatic segue to to the heart attack that you mentioned, but we
Yeah.
just brushed right over. So talk about that experience and healing or recovery, pivot from, acceleration from, what was that moment, that period of your life like?
Well, I want to start, this all goes back to my mom. My mom was 39 years old and she was told she had a hiatal hernia. She had the symptoms of that, which is upper gastric discomfort, things like that. Um, And they kept telling her. Now, I'm not sure, but I don't think they ever tested for that or ruled out a heart. The symptoms were consistent with that. My mom also had her grandmother and two of her aunts died of a heart attack in their early 40s and one in their early 50s. So she had this in her family. Um, so the night before she died, she actually said, my hiatal hernia is acting up, and she went to sleep. And she didn't die till the morning. And so that was something always in the back of my head. It's like, well, you see heart attacks as like people grabbing their chest and falling to
Yeah.
the ground, and there's like nothing, people start doing CPR but I just understood that women present different than men, but I didn't know what that really meant other than a hiatal hernia. Like that's what I knew.
Sure. Yeah.
So I thought, like I said, I thought I was going to die by 39 of a heart attack. And
Now, can I just
yes,
interrupt you one second?
yeah,
As
please.
someone who's into the woo and, the energy stuff,
Hmm.
do you feel this is such a sidebar, so inconsequential? Like
No, go for it. I
this,
love
this
it.
is so ridiculous. But do you feel like you manifested what you were by fearing it, by naming, well, I'm gonna just drink and self-destruct because I'm probably gonna die by 39 anyway?
I don't know if it was a conscious, like, I don't know that I actually said that, but I
Okay.
certainly believed it,
Right.
and
It's like, did you
I,
tell the universe to give yourself this hammer over the head wake up call?
well,
Because
it could, because I actually, people thought like, oh, I was 36, when 36, 37, 36, when I well, I didn't get into recovery meetings. Let's just say that I didn't quite buy into it initially.
I love the
Um,
honesty. Thank you.
well, because but I showed up. I showed
Yeah,
up. And
that's good.
so it wasn't so much that I was going to be 39, but my daughter was 13. And the idea of leaving her with what I would have left her with, so what can I do? And again, you really have to like make the changes for yourself, not for other people, but that was for me. That truly was because I wanted to be there to see her grow up. I wanted to protect her.
Yeah.
And so I don't, so when I started doing that, and then my son was just turning 13, and that's when I gave up alcohol.
Hmm.
And so because he needed, a mom in a little more recovery. And so I started making the changes. And so those changes I was 275s when I came in, and I'm not anymore. I'm at a healthy weight.
I can see
Um,
that. Yep.
I changed my eating very slowly. I gave up sugar, real like what you knew as
I understand.
sugar, and then
Yep.
ultimately I started reading labels, and I don't eat sugar.
Hmm.
I don't really eat a lot of processed food at all.
Hmm.
But I don't eat sugar, I don't eat gluten. And then over time, as I started learning more, I gave up meat, and then I learned some more and I gave up dairy, none of it for health reasons.
Hmm.
It really had nothing to do with my health because I think you can be healthy eating a healthy diet,
And you can
but
be unhealthy
yes, yes, eating a
as a
vegan
vegan.
diet,
Yeah, as a vegan,
yes.
I would dispel a lot of myths if people saw. I mean, I'm much more conscious now, but when I first became vegan almost 5 years ago, it was like, oh, hallelujah, I can still have Oreos
Yeah,
and Cape
there's all
Cod
sorts of things.
chips, and
Yeah,
yeah, like
there's
these
all
things.
sorts of things.
Not that there's anything wrong with Oreos and Cape Cod chips for
Not at
those
all, but they
people.
are for me.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And that's okay. I'm good with that. It's
Yeah.
it's okay because there's a saying in recovery where it's like my best day in my addiction, my how does it go?
Yep. Yep.
My
My
best
worst day.
my
My
best day in
worst.
addiction is worse than my worst day in recovery or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I usually can say that better.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I started making a lot of changes, and as I started getting healthier, then I started exercising, and then I do a lot of I started having a spiritual relationship with something greater than myself. Um, and I mean, I started being able to name my emotions, and then I could deal with them appropriately. And so I just started getting healthy in all ways around. And I have good stress relieving techniques. Doing good. So I went to the cardiologist in November of 21, only because of my family history. I go to a cardiologist. He
Mhm.
did a stress echo. Everything looks great. Why don't you come back in a couple of years? And then a month later, I was chatting with a friend of mine on the phone, and we were like doing something big. We had a big plan. Like we were always we had big ideas. And I felt like an electric current that started at the base of my chin shoot up my jaw to my ears. And it went, whoop. It was like this electric current, and then it receded as quick as it came. And I said to my friend, I said, I'm talking so much, my jaw hurts. And we laughed because now my jaw's, it's not like it was still like, it was a residual dullness.
Mhm.
And then I had like this dull ache at the base of my neck. That, what does that mean? And
Mhm.
so we hung up for not because of any of that. And then I was like, I just knew something was happening because I was able to be quiet. I was able to pause. I didn't have to run out the door and go to work. I didn't have to go pick up the kids. I didn't have to do anything but be with myself. And I knew something was happening. And then I remembered I'm a nurse, so I can assess myself.
Mm.
And it didn't say heart attack, but I knew something was going on. And after about 25 minutes and a lot of thought, I ended up calling 911. And, he said, do you have chest pain, shortness of breath, pain in your left arm, elephant on your chest? And I said, yes, 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 yes. And I didn't have any of them.
Hmm.
But I know, like, women can present and still they're not heard. And I wasn't going to take that chance. Now, in saying that, maybe they would have still come over with what I said,
Maybe.
but I wasn't willing to take that chance. And they got there, they put the EKG on, and they're like, okay, aspirin went in the mouth. And I'm
Yep.
like, I knew what was happening.
Wow.
And I ended up, my right coronary artery was 100% blocked. And they ended up doing 4 stents instead of one because my artery got dissected. Um, they wouldn't knock me out. I'm like, please knock me out. I don't want to hear any of this. And they finally gave me, now I'm a nurse, as I said, and I hear the nurse go, one of Versed going in. And Versed is this lovely medication that kind of gives you amnesia, relaxes you, and makes you go to sleep.
Yep.
And she said, one of Versed going in. And I said, one, there's two in that vial. I want the other. And she laughed. And I'm like, I'm not joking. Like, I really want it. They wouldn't give it to me. And then it was over. And it was over. And everything is fine. And so it was really hard recovery. There was some depression, there were, I think some of it is medicine induced because they finally took me off this one medicine, and 3 days later, the sun was shining again.
Mm.
Um, but I leaned deeply into the tools that I use for my recovery, and even on the darkest days, I just did what I needed to do. And sometimes reluctantly, sometimes really angry, but I did it. And yeah, and they found out what happened, what was explained to me, because it's not, they said genetics is my only risk factor. My cholesterol's low, my blood pressure's low, everything's fine. Um, But what happened is they said it's like a pimple breaking through your skin. A pimple like broke through my artery and it set off the clotting cascade, which like what a little blockage, like a 20% can become 100% within a couple days.
Ooh.
And because there's nothing else in my arteries when they went in there, they were clean.
So is the pimple factor genetic, or is
No,
that's
that was a
just that
freak
was
thing.
random? Okay.
They called it a phenomenon.
Okay. That's a good word for,
Yeah.
random baloney.
Something
Um,
I can't explain.
Pardon the interruption, but I have to tell you about my absolute favorite place on planet Earth. It's called Canyon Ranch. Have you ever heard of it? It is a wellness resort, and there are several locations in the United States. I have been to the one in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, and I'm telling you about it so that you can enjoy 10% off this spectacular place. Everything from the food, the staff, the facilities, the workshops, the exercise classes, the overall vibe, it's first class. So I hope you will check it out. You can book online or over the phone using code SIDELINE to save 10%. And now let's get back to the show. Because I was going to ask you about the genetic aspect. I told you I listened to a lot of health podcasts, almost to a fault. And I will hear the message over and over again that people love to explain away and lean on that crutch of, well, I'm genetically predisposed to X, Y, and Z.
Yep. Yep.
And then, but I've heard in these podcasts I listen to that, well, you're not genetically inclined to have a heart attack. You, quote, genetically have bad fucking habits. Like you learn from your parents how to eat, how to move or not move, how to manage stress, sleep habits, like all of these things, toxins and whatnot. So it's like when you see a history of high cholesterol in a family, well, there's also a history of fried chicken.
There is, but there also can be. And
yes,
and
no,
there
and
is
I
a test.
yeah. And
There
no,
is
and
a test you
I'm
can
not
do.
I am not suggesting on this show
But I do
or
hear
in
what you're
real
saying.
life
I do
that
absolutely
there
hear what
is
you're
no, I just want the listeners to know I am not suggesting that
saying.
that there is no such thing as, genetic links to diseases, but I think it's also interesting the
The
lifestyle.
genetic of the habits, if you want to look at
Yes.
that. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. You're
I mean,
absolutely right.
I have probably admitted on this show before, I have high blood pressure. It came about, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, and out of nowhere, like legit, one physical, I went into the doctors and I was your standard like 120/80. And then the next visit, it was like, 135/90 or something. And it was just like, what happened?
What happened?
What happened? And it's and I'm vegan and I exercise and I do breath work and I'm aware of my stress and I try to be as low tox as possible and I get out in nature every day and I snuggle my pets and all of these things that are conducive to
Lowering your
relaxation,
blood pressure. Yeah.
oxytocin, and all
Yeah.
these like whatever, reducing the shit in my life and the cortisol and all that. And it still is I'm still working. I'm trying to get out more of the processed food. Like, how clean can I be? And obviously the salt, and I'm becoming more and more aware and knowledgeable and intentional with these choices. But I am keenly aware that my father has high blood pressure. His father had high blood pressure. Has this carotid thing or something.
Yeah.
It's there regardless of
And if you didn't do what you're doing, you
how
could
much
run
worse
the
could it
risk
be?
of, right, exactly.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
and that's something I know for myself. And
Mhm.
if I didn't make the changes I've made, I probably would have been dead a long time ago. And and I don't doubt that. So but there's a couple things, there's a couple tests you can do prior to having a heart attack. There's a
Great.
calcium CT, a CAT scan, that can show how much calcium plaque is in your arteries. It is out of pocket. Insurance does not cover it. It's about $150 in most
Okay.
areas. There's also, what is it called? The lipoprotein A, which can tell you if you are genetically predisposed to a heart attack.
Interesting.
Because I haven't had that done, but I'm almost curious.
Yeah.
Because just because my mom died of a heart attack doesn't mean that I'm genetically predisposed. And I'd be interested in knowing that. But the thing is, like you were saying, how people these people say genetic, and it's like it's almost a relief. Like if I was to say, oh, your mom died of a heart attack and it's genetic, whew, that's not going to happen to me. Oh, that something happened. If we can explain something away, then we're safe,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Right. Whereas, my mother died from breast cancer. I don't have the BRCA gene. So it's like, well, shit, now what?
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, not that you want the gene, but
if she didn't have it and I don't have it and it's all just fucking fluke,
Yeah.
then what gives?
Yeah, I mean, life is life,
Yeah.
and that's why the name of my book, it's like Listen to Your Heart Song, Navigating the Unexpected, because you don't have to have addiction or lose a parent young or have a heart attack unexpectedly. We've all navigated, the unexpected, and we will continue to navigate the unexpected
Well, I
because
love, sorry.
no, life is life,
Yeah.
you know?
I love the part of your TED Talk where you said, even if you're here in the audience and you don't relate to death
Hmm.
as it's defined, what other were you never picked, were you
Yeah,
picked last for dodgeball, were you like, what else was a crushing blow in your life that you didn't have the means to manage?
right. And
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 it's
it's yes, and that creates the story.
right. I mean, I talk about that when I'm referencing trauma in content or breathwork sessions. It's like, dude, if you were picked on the school bus or playground, that could have been your version of rape, kidnapping,
Absolutely.
surviving a fire, a war. It doesn't have to be those extreme examples of trauma, but childhood bullying, being
Oh, it's
ignored in your house. Those are traumatic experiences that leave a mark and inform the way you continue to live.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and that's where the stories are created,
Yeah.
and we come to believe them because those are the only stories we know. And a
Yeah.
lot of that, I mean, yeah, those are survival techniques, some of the things we learn, but we're not living in that anymore. And so we can let them go. They don't serve us anymore, but we've
Yeah.
become like a little cozy with them.
Exactly. They're like little teddy bears we curl
Yeah,
up with. And that's why I referenced to you earlier a person in my life who is addicted to the suffering. And it's like, that's been a story that's so
hmm,
profound in their life that who would I be if I didn't bitch and moan about my
yeah,
childhood poverty and being ignored by my parents? Like, what would that person have then? Well, shit, they'd
right.
have to like be present and engaged.
Yeah. And run the risk of being seen because we can hide behind these things. And if we remove them, and that's a big part of what I love about this book, is I say things that are typically unspoken, and that gives other people permission. It invites them to then try it on for themselves. And people have
Oh,
come up to me and shared things they've never told another person. And I love it.
it's so synchronous that I'm speaking to you right after speaking to another author, memoirist. Um, she said almost the exact same thing to me that you
Mhm.
just said, that speaking the unspeakable and as a result having people flood the inbox and the DMs and all that with, or even stopping on the street or being at a reading and having people say, you told my story, you spoke my
Yeah.
truth, thank you. And it's just so interesting to me to have both of these conversations within a 24-hour period. I freaking love it.
It's
And
so important. It's
and you're
so
both so
important.
brave though. I mean, that you're doing the thing that people are acknowledging you for doing. And even if you don't see it as brave and you see it as either your excavation or your moral obligation, either way it's connecting with people who needed to hear it. So
Yeah.
um much thanks. And
Oh, thank you. No,
it's
I want, and when I wrote an article, which is the beginning of the book, and my mom's two sisters read it, and they're like, "You've got to do something with this." And I really felt it was my responsibility, and I've had people tell me they've gone to the hospital because something was going on. None of it's been
wow.
related to their heart, which is great. I don't
Yeah,
want, but it's like,
so what?
listen, advocate for yourself because healthcare, and I'm speaking as a nurse and as a patient and as a family member to patients, healthcare is not good.
Yeah.
Is not good. Like there are so many issues with today. You have to speak up just because your
Mm-hmm.
doctor tells you something. I think I heard on one of your episodes, it's like, go lose weight here, run and,
That
yeah,
was me.
yes, and it's like,
From a doctor friend.
yes, and it's
Yeah.
like, no, if you're not getting the answer that makes sense to you or that you intuitively just don't believe, ask it again. Our time is just as valuable as the doctor's.
Well, I told you how I'm soon to interview a breast cancer
Hmm.
specialist. And in her book is this incredibly rich, dense list of questions to ask your provider
Love that.
slash
Love that.
team, because she's like, you
Hmm.
need a team. This is not
You
a
do.
one person job. And so it's this very lengthy list, and it's broken up into things about treatment, recovery, lifestyle
Oh,
stuff. It's all these,
what a
but
gift.
but it is a very comprehensive list. And
Hmm.
when I told you that someone in my life who just came to me with a breast cancer diagnosis, I gave her the book, and coincidentally, she had an appointment with a doctor the next day who she was planning to work with. And I said, okay, I'm not trying to overstep here. I know you didn't ask me for this, so you can close the door on me anytime you want. But one, you're allowed to get a second opinion. Two, please take this book, bring this list in with you, start rattling off these questions. If the doctor tells you, time's up, sorry, I think you have your answer on the second opinion. So
Yeah.
that was the first part. But also, I said, these are questions that we don't know to ask, which is why
Yeah.
they're in this book. So please get through as many of these as you can, because it's so much more than chemo and radiation.
Hey ladies, I'm interrupting the show to tell you about Gentle Coaching. Gentle Coaching is my business. It is where I offer life coaching and breathwork services to midlife women and their young adult daughters. And there are a few different ways that you can stay in touch with me so you know everything that's going on. The first is Instagram at Gentle Coaching. The second is Facebook at Gentle Coaching. The third is on my website, gentlecoaching.com, and those are all gentle with a J, by the way. And the fourth is my email newsletter. Are you on the list? You can grab the links to all of those things in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode.
I was not able to go to cardiac rehab because of COVID.
Mm,
And there was like an 8-week waiting list. And it wasn't so much for my heart to rehabilitate because my heart's good, but the emotional things that go, because you know what? On my health history now, I have to say I have coronary artery disease. I am
mm.
a healthy person. I can't get life insurance now. Like, I
Ay,
am a healthy person. My heart is excellent.
yep.
And these are things, and like you have to go through these emotions no matter what you're facing, whether you come out the other side or going through it or whatever it is, you have to face these things. And I love that there's a list because, and I also believe I tell my patients all the time, I do 1-day surgery, I send them home and I'm like, make a list, write it down and bring it, because I've had people, oh, you know what? You're busy. I've got 2 more questions, just 2. And so we're going to do that so they can see the list.
Yeah,
I'm not going to remember if I don't have the list. So don't think you're
exactly.
going to remember. But
Right.
you have the right to advocate for yourself. Doctors are just people. They're not anything special. They have a little more information than you do. And you have a
About
right to
about
that
some things.
about some things. And you have
Yeah.
a right to the appropriate information.
Hmm. Oof. I love that perspective from someone who's in the work. Uh, Now, I want to go back to something that you said a little bit ago. And of course, I don't have the whole transcript in front of me, as I only wrote down like 2 words as you were talking. Um, but you talked about now being able to manage emotions, or let's say difficult emotions, big emotions, in a more healthy manner
Hmm.
than the earlier part of your life. What does managing emotions in a healthy fashion look like?
For me, there's writing. I'm a big journaler. I'm a big get this out of my head and onto paper. It's always bigger in my head than on the
Mm,
paper. Like if you have a bunch of things to do, you can feel so overwhelmed. But if you write it down, it's just a list, and you can highlight. I like highlighting because it's prettier.
love.
I also have an incredible group of women who support me, believe in me, and are available to me. And I can reach out to them and say, and I know, there's times it's like, okay, they're not answering or they're not whatever, but I know if I said, I need you now,
Yeah.
they're going to,
Mm.
because just normal conversation, it's like, oh, she can wait, it's okay. But so I have this incredible, I'm really, and I've kind of sought that out. Um, and not every one of them is in recovery, but they're all people who are diggers of themselves, very into their own self-awareness, that are kind. I really dig kindness. I do. I mean, uh,
I laugh because I'm thinking of the alternative, like, oh, I
well,
really dig a whole bunch of assholes. Like,
I
I
I
love,
know, but
I know,
but
I know,
oh my gosh,
I know, I know.
it's a beautiful thing. And I know for myself, I was scared to be too kind because then you can take advantage of me. But now I know
You know,
I have boundaries. Like you can't take advantage of me.
right. Well,
Like
that's
unless I let you.
again, like I've said this before on this show, like my show, I can say what I want. I don't have to ask people's permission if I'm going to name them on the show. But, I guess that's not very
Right.
kind. But I will say, like, my husband, for whatever reason, the stories that he's carrying around, has a hard time with asking people for favors or help.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, like a million years ago, before TVs became really lightweight, we had this 135
Yeah.
pound plasma screen, something or other. It was a really big deal that we bought this TV. And we wanted to move it from one room to another. Well, it's unwieldy. It's like carrying a dead body. I can't help. I was useless. Maybe I was pregnant. Who knows? Like, whatever the excuse was. I was either pregnant or just too weak. And so I said, how about we ask our big burly neighbor who has a continuous smile on his face?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we ask him for help? And it was like, oh my God, I can't. We can't. I don't want to owe him. And I said, Okay, we're not chaining him to a tow truck and bringing him into our house. It's
Right.
asking him. He has agency to say no.
Yes.
And if he says yes, and you feel inclined to give him a six pack or something, or baseball tickets or whatever you might want to reciprocate with, but if he says yes, that's how it works,
Believe him.
right? And so I have no problem. I don't want to say testing people's kindness, but allowing for people's
Yeah.
kindness.
Yes. Receive it a lot because
Yes.
it's not enough for people to. I had to learn to receive the kindness.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a great example of what you asked. How do I deal with hard emotions? So, I planned a book launch in February, past last February. Big deal. Books coming out. February 7th, which was Go Red for Women. Very, very.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody's wearing red. Everything's
Love it.
red. And so,
Love it.
so people were coming. This was turning into something quite larger than I ever anticipated. And I don't throw parties because I don't want like people might say no, or they don't show up, or they're obligated to come. And so it's like this was a big deal, and I was receiving it.
Mm.
So a couple days before the book launch, I get a message from my publisher. The books are delayed. They're not going to get there in time. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, it's on Friday. They'll be there Saturday. Well,
Oh,
that's not going
wonderful.
to do me any fucking good. I
Right.
was so like I don't even know
Right.
how to respond right now.
Right. I have to hand out a bunch of IOUs. What are you
I'm
talking
like, I
about?
don't even know what to do here right now. So I texted my friend who was the person I was talking to when I had the heart attack because she's a big go-to. And I texted her And she's also very spiritual and and she texted me back, I'm calling in the angels. And I'm like, fuck the angels. Like, I am not ready for angels.
I need
And
UPS.
like, I need to drive wherever that truck is. I don't care. And and I was like so angry. And I mean, I was scared. I started
Yeah,
looking,
yeah.
what are my emotions? Because it's
Right, the
rarely
halt
anger. It's
thing, and yeah.
rarely anger. It's always something underneath. Anger is a
Yeah.
huge umbrella. And if you can get to what it really is, fear, like
Mhm.
looking stupid.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, all these people, they're coming in from out of town. It's
Yep.
winter in Syracuse.
Yep.
Like, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah. I've done winter in Syracuse. I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
So I was
You
like,
know,
oh my God.
October, you mean?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Just kidding.
April, actually.
Right.
So 35 minutes it took me. And I called her and I said, okay, you can call in the angels.
I
And
love
she
it.
said, oh, I've already made a database. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit behind the table. People are going to order the books. They're going to pay me. They're going to pay me right there. I'm going to get their addresses. We are going to do this. And she sat there for 3 hours with this database that she created. I got to walk around and we were all navigating the unexpected, which is the book, you
Yep.
know,
Yeah.
and it was beautiful. And I demanded, I got my shipping refunded. And so because I had to mail these books out now.
Right.
So yeah, so that's like I think it's important to feel the emotion. I'm not denying the emotion. I'm not saying
Right.
like, oh dear, this is an inconvenience. Golly. No, I was pissed. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I couldn't even think to get through it. But I breathed. I
Mhm.
definitely, I mean, I don't, the breath work I do is not necessarily um, something I tap into under those circumstances, but I do know breath work and
Mhm.
I did, I breathe. I don't think I was able to pray, um, but I also trust. And I fully, like, I believe in faith and footwork. And I knew this was going to come out. I just had to get through this. And I trusted that. I didn't know how long it would take me, but it was 35 minutes because I looked at the phone and it was like, okay.
Wow.
So
What does trust look and feel like to you?
that's a tough one. It's hard to explain because it's just a state of being. I have seen, there was a saying when I first came into recovery, or first came into the rooms, um, don't leave 5 minutes before the miracle.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And so I kept showing up to meetings because I'd be damned if I wasn't going to be there when the miracle showed up.
Yeah.
You know, I've no longer spoke at all. It'll be just my luck. I won't be there. I can't speak like that anymore.
Right.
Um, and I don't rely on I don't know what the outcome is going to be. Like I can't lean onto the outcome because I don't know what it looks like. So I just need to take the steps towards it, and then it can show because it 9 times out of 10, it's better than what I imagined. Like that book launch without a book was incredible. Like I
Nope.
can't even
Yeah.
tell you what a gift it was. I couldn't have imagined it.
Right. And if you did imagine it, the books would have been there. So you never would have created the vision that didn't have you sitting and signing books.
Right.
And yet, for it to be amazing without that factored in
And
is
it was pointed
wild.
out, it is, and it was pointed out to me, which is something I needed to hear because I didn't think of it. Um, was I if because a friend of mine was in Florida and she said, listen, if I was coming up to your book launch, I would rather come up and have no books than know you.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, only what? Never. I don't want to go into that one. Never mind.
that's
I'll say
good
it
though.
later. But yeah, and it just really helped me. It really helped me.
Mm.
Yeah. So
So, in trying to wrap this conversation up with a pretty bow, the listeners are predominantly women. I say midlife, that is a very vague term because as you just said, we don't know how things are going to turn out. So we could all be living to 150. So,
Mhm.
what is midlife? Um, with everything that you've experienced, the loss, the grief, the addiction, the self destruction, the growth, the recovery, the healing, the heart attack. I didn't even really
Yeah.
allude to that, but what advice that hasn't already come up in snippets would you give? What life lessons, what advice do you want these listeners to walk away with?
The first thing that pops into my head is each person is worthy and they make a difference. And even when you're not feeling that, know that. Because we have to, if something, we have to stop and listen to our bodies, to our gut, to our heart, whatever you want to call it, our intuitive knowing, whatever you want to call it. We have to, and we're not going to, you have to practice it. Start with something small because we're not going to believe it. You want to, what does trust and faith look like for me? I had to practice it in small doses. I had to oh, I feel this. Ugh, I'm going to respond to it. Oh, and the outcome is good. And sometimes the outcome is not great, but it takes me in the direction I need to go that I wouldn't have found otherwise.
Yeah.
So really learning to listen and trusting your own self because nobody knows your body better than you. Nobody knows your body better than you. Nobody knows who you are. Even if we're hiding who we are, there's still some intuitive essence in us that knows us. And just start trusting that. And as we do, and speak your truth, as scary as it is, don't speak it to somebody that's not safe. We lead breathwork classes, and it's a very emotional breakthrough. There's a lot of crying and keening and all sorts of stuff. We end it with a big gong, and everybody has a primal scream, and then we sit and we make sure everybody gets back in their body, and we talk. And anybody want to share anything? And we only have one rule in this class, even if you do the breath wrong, whatever. There's one rule: don't text your exes. And everybody laughs but it's true because we're like, oh my God, I know exactly who needs this right now. I know, no, not everybody deserves your worthiness. Not everybody has earned that. So just because, there's a difference between secrecy and privacy. Not, we're allowed to be private. We're also as sick as our secrets. So I can't keep secrets, but I don't have to tell everyone them. I have safe people I can tell. And I've had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
And I've also put myself in situations where I know, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, it's not safe. And then I say it. And it's like, oh. So, it's all trial and error. And the good news is we're going to have lots of opportunities to practice. There's always opportunities to practice.
Right.
So I guess that's kind of where I would go. But, God, we as just being human, we're worthy. We're worthy.
Right. Well, that was mediocre, Caron. I think you could have done better, but God, seriously, if everyone could just rewind 30 seconds and listen to that again and really slow down the audio playback and really hear, listen on point 8 and hear those words. Those should not be rushed through. That was really special.
Thank you.
Not just the last 30 seconds or a minute, all of it, but that advice, the worthiness, the trust, the inner knowing that we have, many of us have been taught and conditioned to dismiss
Absolutely.
is really disheartening. And like you said, there's so many more opportunities that every moment is a new chance to say, oh, right, I do have intuition. I do have inner knowing. And you just suggested that we split the cheesecake. I don't eat cheesecake. I don't want to split the cheesecake with you. So I'm not going to say yes to that. You get it if you want it.
Yeah. And there's ways to do it. Like, say you're at a red light and you always turn right. You always turn right. That's the closest way to go home. You turn right, but something is telling you to turn left. Listen to that. It's what's it going to take? 5 minutes out of your way? Go left and then pay attention. Did you see something special? Did something show up for you? Or did you miss something? Do you hear later on that there was an accident over there? I mean, pay attention to when these little things show up that we just take, oh, whatever. They mean something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is fascinating, the wisdom, the miracles. Like you said, the wait, stay in the room until the miracle
Mhm.
happens. It's there in life, not just in the recovery room.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like we walk around with our eyes and ears covered and somehow expect knowledge and experience, and yet we're completely unaware.
Very true.
Caron, I've loved this. I don't
Me
want to say
too.
goodbye.
I
want
know.
we'll just everybody dig in, because this is a 10-hour episode. So grab a snack, take a bathroom break. Okay, so wow, please tell everybody about following you and finding your book.
Sure. So my book is Listen to Your Heart Song, Navigating the Unexpected. You can get it on Amazon. There's a couple. Why don't I have? I should have the other places in front of me. On my website, I believe it shows where that is, and my website is carongrossman.com. Caron is Caron, Grossman, but Caron is usually what throws people off. You can find me on Instagram, Caron Grossman, LinkedIn, Caron Grossman, Facebook, Caron Grossman. I'm just kind of navigating my way through all that. Marketing has been an interesting process, and
Indeed.
always something to learn. Always something to
Yes.
learn.
Yep.
So,
I know. Being my own AV person,
yeah,
IT person, social media marketing manager, web designer, it's like,
you have to really want it.
right. Can't I just like wake up and have it all done for me?
Yeah, no.
Well, I will, and I know I alluded to your TED Talk, so I'm going to link all of it
Oh,
in the
thank
show
you.
notes, because that was gold.
Thank you.
And just enjoyable. I mean, someone could put that on while they're making oatmeal and just have a more enlightened experience for that. So well done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
It was great. And now I want to invite you to raise a glass. And for this pivotal moment of a cheers, we are going to say, oh, there were so many good, so many good messages that I want to leave. Well, I'm leaving people with it because this is an episode that people are listening to. So they have the messages. But let's say cheers to trust your body.
Oh, I'll drink to that.
Right? Just so simple and so magical.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Caron, you are delightful. You are inspiring. You're relatable. I mean, the things that you have been through. No, not everyone has a heart attack at 39 after having lost their mother to a heart attack when she was 39. But
I was 58.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, you were fearing the heart attack at 39.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll repeat myself. So not everyone has a heart attack themselves after having lost their mother to a heart attack, to battling all of the demons. Although that, I think, is the underlying thread, is that we all have some demons. You have yours, I have mine, the listeners have theirs, and you've made the acceptance of those demons really um uh pleasant
Mm.
and I do want to find the right word. Just hold on, it's going to come to me. This is why I edit. Uh Understandable, respectable, connected. There's a way that you have handled your hills and mountains and boulders that makes the rest of us feel okay in doing the same thing.
I love that. Thank you. Because we are like, we're all, I don't even know how I can emphasize that. Like, there was no guidebook when we were born, you know?
Right.
And
Yeah. It honestly, the GPS system for life hasn't been built yet. And we're all, I love how you said when we want to extend that adage of we're all doing the best we can with the knowledge that we have. We want to
Mhm.
extend that to others, but can we just start with ourselves?
Yeah. And we have to. I mean, we have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. And with that, trust your body, trust that you're doing the best that you can with what you have.
And what we were taught, because our parents came from their parents and they came from their parents and
Yeah.
and it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
One foot in front of the other. There's
that's true.
bound to be a mountain or a pothole in front of us at some point. So
Mm-hmm. And how
just,
are we going to navigate it?
yeah, brace yourself
Yeah.
and all of your tricks of trust and uh having a tribe and purging out the anger or the feeling. It's all going to help.
Well, and I would invite everybody to, the next time you feel angry, because there will be a next time, for whatever reason, at home, at work, at yourself, whatever it is, just pause for a minute and look beneath it. What is really going on? Are you feeling, first of all, are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired?
Yep.
There's some of that.
I love the halt. Yep.
But also there is, are you feeling betrayed? Are you feeling unseen, unheard? Are you feeling frustrated? I mean, what is underneath the anger? Because chances are it's not just anger. And
Yes. I mean,
and if you
there's
can and if you can get to what it is, or at least in close proximity, you have a better chance of moving through it quickly. And really, an emotion, if you do not get in the way of an emotion, if you just allow the emotion to be felt, 90 seconds.
oh for sure. I know.
90
Isn't
seconds.
it
It's when you
incredible?
get in the way of it that
Yeah.
it'll last for years.
Yeah.
But
Getting to the what are you feeling is, I mean, if anyone has ever encountered the emotion
yeah,
wheel, it's awesome. I mean, even like I've seen this, and it's hard to see with, well, I'm just gonna,
I
it's
get it. Yep.
it's this vibrational emotional scale. So just being able to name what you're feeling is so intriguing. Like, oh, I'm feeling insecure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, that's that's good data right there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm feeling um abandoned.
That's a
Ooh,
biggie.
right. What do I do with that? Like what? Well, maybe it starts with just naming it
Yeah.
and then
Well,
and
then you
then
recognize it's not anger, so you're going to respond differently. Because when
right.
we're angry, we respond usually in a maybe a loud, chaotic way. We may say
Yeah.
things we regret. Um, or you may stuff it all in, 'cause some people don't express their anger. But if we
Mhm.
can recognize what it truly is, we're going to respond differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So trust your body, feel your emotions
advocate for yourself.
and advocate for yourself. Yeah. Go, what is it like? Live, live life and prosper, something, live,
Yes.
whatever the Trekkies say.
There we go,
Go,
right there.
go live and prosper and feel great. Caron, I wish you so much success with this book and
Thank you.
everything else that you choose to do.
Well, thank you so much. This has really just been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you. You're a delight.
Right back at you.
So thank you.
What an amazing story Caron just shared. And I think the most important takeaway from last week's conversation with Nicole Grave-Lipson and today's with Caron Grossman is to speak these unspeakable topics. When we open up about these so-called taboo topics, we take some of the power away. We begin to normalize these things that have been put in a drawer, locked away, and labeled inappropriate, unmentionable. So I want to extend huge amounts of gratitude to these two women for breaking the silence and giving us a giant neon permission slip to go out and speak our own truth. Now let's get into Caron Grossman's notes from the sidelines. Number 1, grief is so much more than being sad over a death. There are layers upon layers of other emotions at play. And it is perfectly natural to feel that going on with your normal life is a betrayal to the deceased. Number 2, shame is a huge part of any addiction. Number 3, addiction doesn't know which emotion it is squelching. I love how Caron said that. It could just as easily diminish or erase joy as it does pain. Number 4, whether it's addressing addiction or something else, make the change for yourself and not another person. Number 5, stories come from experiences, and our stories create survival mechanisms. We believe these stories because they're all we know. But at a certain point, we must realize that we're not living in that trauma anymore, and the stories and survival mechanisms are not serving us. Number 6, advocate for yourself with respect to health. Our time is just as valuable as a doctor's. Number 7, kindness. Do it and be open to receiving it. Number 8, when dealing with emotions, big emotions and hard emotions, try some of these techniques. Journaling, relying on friends, feeling the emotions, breathing. Number 9, everyone is worthy and makes a difference. I love that one. Number 10, learn to listen and trust yourself. This can be hard when you have developed a really good practice of outsourcing and relying on the influence of others. But practice self-trust in small doses so you can begin to learn what it looks and feels like. And finally, number 11, there is a difference between secrecy and privacy. We are allowed to be private, and we're only as sick as our secrets. You don't have to keep your secrets, and you also don't have to tell them to just anybody. I hope you all loved this episode and take a moment to share it with someone you know and care about. It's really easy to share a podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, for example, there is the little share symbol. So you can text it to someone, post it on Facebook, put in your Instagram stories, or just copy the link and email it to a friend. So I hope you'll do that and continue to spread the message of Sideline Sisters and these really special conversations. It's a pretty awesome thing that women come on this show and share very personal, often traumatic experiences for our benefit so that we can learn how they handled their hardships and what we can do in our own lives when we face obstacles and conflict. So I want to thank Caron and all the other brave women who have been on this show. Thank you to the listeners who tune in each week to support me and my amazing guests. I wish you all a beautiful week, and encourage you to tune in next week for my fascinating conversation with Christine Califas, who wrote a memoir called Flood and shares her story of countless tragedies which led to her evolution and discovery that her choice to get really busy and avoid feeling led to an overall overcomplication of life. And when she finally decided to slow down and be present, magical things happened. So I hope you'll join me next week for that conversation. Cheers to you.